Whispers of Raventon. Every town had its secrets, and Grayford was no exception. In the corner booth of the Lantern Inn, beneath the creak of ceiling fans and the smell of damp wood, the old men always told the same story, of a village swallowed by the forest. They left their tools in the fields, one would say. Dinner still on the tables, another whispered. And when the searchers came, nothing but silence. Evelyn Harper, 29, journalist for the Northern Herald, listened to these tales as a child. Now, years later, she found herself back in Grayford, her father's old town, chasing what most dismissed as folklore. One rainy afternoon, buried in the town library's archives, she found it, an old surveyor's map dated 1892, with a single red mark deep in the forest. Barely legible beside it, Raventon. Her heart raced. She wasn't just chasing a ghost story anymore. The team Evelyn knew she couldn't go alone. She called Mark Ellison, her closest friend, a historian who could read symbols and old tongues as if they were street signs. Then there was Samir Patel, a photographer whose patience could outlast any storm. Nora Valdez, a geologist fascinated by underground anomalies. And finally, Jonas Briggs, a reclusive local guide who knew every root and ridge of the forest. They met at dawn by the Grayford Gate, backpacks heavy and nerves tight. Jonas spat into the dirt and muttered, "People go chasing stories in those woods." "They don't always come back," Evelyn smiled faintly. "Then let's make sure we do." And they walked beneath the ancient trees, unaware that the forest was already listening. Into the green. By the second day, the woods had swallowed them. The air was still, unnaturally so. Even the birds refused to sing. Fallen trees, thick moss, and half-buried stones marked paths long forgotten. At night, they sat by their small fire while Jonas told old stories of Raventon, of bells that rang from nowhere, of lights flickering among the trees, of a sickness that made the villagers see things that were not there. On the third evening, fog rolled in heavy and white. When it lifted, they stood before a clearing none of them had noticed on their maps. And there, bathed in pale moonlight, were the ruins. Cottages with sagging roofs, a church steeple split in two, and in the center, a stone fountain cracked and dry. Evelyn whispered, "We found it," but Jonas frowned. Or it found us. Echoes in dust, they explored cautiously. Inside the cottages, plates still sat on tables, rusted tools by doors, a cradle in one corner filled with nothing but dust. Samir took photographs while Mark inspected a leather-bound journal found near a hearth. "The sky hums now," he read. "The light beneath the well grows stronger each night. We cannot sleep outside." Nora was crouched by the fountain. "Evelyn," she called, "come look at this." The stone basin wasn't dry after all. At its deepest point, a thin pool shimmered faintly blue. "Bioluminescence?" Samir asked, but Nora shook her head. "No, this is different." That night they heard it, the faint metallic tolling of a bell from somewhere deep in the woods. 3 slow chimes, then silence. The next morning they found the well. It was old, choked with vines, but when they peered inside, a strange glow pulsed from far below. Evelyn decided they had to see what was down there. They set up lights, cameras, and ropes. As the camera descended, the glow brightened, illuminating what looked like arched tunnels beneath the village. Walls carved with spirals and runes no one recognized. Mark whispered, "It's a whole structure." They built something under Raventon. The camera feed flickered. A flash of movement, a human silhouette, appeared on the screen for a split second. But when they looked again, it was gone. Dissent against Jonas's protests, they climbed down the next day. The air grew colder the deeper they went. At the bottom, they found themselves in a vast underground hall. Ceilings lost to shadow, walls glowing faintly like veins of light. In the center stood a pedestal of black stone, and upon it, an orb of glass. Smooth, perfect, humming softly. Evelyn stepped closer. "It feels alive." Mark brushed dust from the pedestal and revealed an inscription. "The light that remembers." Before anyone could stop her, Evelyn reached out. The moment her fingers touched the orb, light exploded through the cavern. Visions flooded her mind. Villagers working, laughing, praying, then the ground trembling. blue fire pouring from the wells, faces melting into light. When she came to, she was lying on the ground gasping. Jonas was shaking her. "What did you do?" The orb was gone. Only the pedestal remained, cracked down the middle. The awakening. The earth rumbled. Dust fell from the ceiling. The blue light spread like veins through the floor, racing toward the tunnel walls. They ran. Rocks collapsed behind them as they scrambled up the well, emerging into the daylight just as the entire ground below gave way. The fountain in the square burst to life, pouring blue water, bright as lightning. The bell tolled again, louder, closer. Jonas turned in terror. "We need to go! Now!" But Evelyn stood frozen, eyes glowing faintly. "It's calling to me." Samir grabbed her arm. "Whatever it is, it's not human." And together they fled the village as the forest began to shake with sound, a hum that seemed to come from the earth itself. The return to Grayford. They stumbled out of the forest at dawn, exhausted and half-mad. The town looked the same, but the air felt heavier, charged. When they tried to show their photos and recordings, everything had been erased. Memory cards blank, journals soaked, samples gone. Only Evelyn's skin bore proof. Faint blue veins pulsing beneath the surface. The town authorities dismissed their story. Old mines, they said, gas leaks, hallucinations. But every night, Evelyn heard the hum in her sleep. Soft, rhythmic, endless. The disappearance. Weeks later, Mark vanished. His apartment door was open, lights flickering. On his desk lay pages of frantic notes, sketches of symbols, blue spirals, and one phrase repeated over and over: "The light remembers. The light is awake." Nora left town soon after. Samir stopped answering calls. Only Evelyn remained, convinced that Raventon hadn't been destroyed, only shifted, hidden by the same force that created it. The second journey, months later, she returned, alone. The forest paths were different now, the air thicker. But she found it again. The clearing was smaller, the ruins half buried, yet the fountain still flowed, faintly glowing, the water whispering. She set up her recorder and spoke quietly. Day 1. Raventon still exists. The energy persists. It's waiting. That night the bells returned. Not from the woods this time, but from beneath the ground. The soil beneath her feet pulsed like a heartbeat. Beneath the light, Evelyn followed the sound. She found a crack in the earth where the well had once been and climbed down. The tunnels were alive now, walls breathing, light flowing like veins through stone. In the central chamber, the pedestal stood whole again, the orb glowing brighter than ever. From its surface, figures began to form. Faces she recognized. Mark, Samir, even the villagers from her visions. Mark stepped forward, his voice echoing inside her mind. "It's not a curse, Evelyn. It's a memory, the earth remembering what it lost." She reached for him, and the light engulfed her. The forgotten. When the rescue team found her weeks later, she was lying by the edge of the forest, unconscious but alive. She remembered nothing. Not the village, not her friends, not even her own name. But every night she dreamed of blue light in the sound of bells. And deep beneath the forest, far below where roots could reach, Raventon glowed once more, its streets alive with the hum of memory, waiting endlessly for someone else to hear it. The last transmission. Months later, a park ranger found Evelyn's lost recorder deep in the woods. The last entry was faint but clear. They weren't destroyed. They became something else. The light is the echo of every soul that ever lived here. Raventon was never abandoned. It was transformed. Then a pause, and finally her voice whispering, "The hum is growing louder." Then, the sound of bells and silence.